Okay. Welcome to the Charter Review Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, April 6th, 2021, and it is 6:38. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're here at the Municipal Airport Conference Room. And I'll call the meeting to order. Next item of business, roll call. Yvonne?
David Smith.
Here.
Pamela Duke. Present. Denise Clements.
Present.
And White.
Okay, we have quorum. Item number 3, consider and accept Charter Review Committee minutes February 24th, 2021. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
No?
The
Just tell me.
only thing at the top, this says George Parent Community.
Oh, it does. No, right. Okay.
That's all.
That's it. Okay, I'll take care of that.
Oh, that Yvonne.
I know. I'm so incompetent.
I didn't notice it last.
I didn't notice it either.
Denise, are you good with the 24th?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here.
She wasn't here.
Yeah, she wasn't here.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll accept the motion.
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous of those present.
One abstention, sir.
One abstention. Mrs. Clements was not in attendance. Okay, so that takes care of it. Wonderful. February 24th. Okay, so the next meeting for approval, okay, we have,
March 20.
okay, the only one that can't participate in that one is Pam.
Yep.
Okay. Minutes of March 24th. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
But I say, Mr. Chair, there's a good amount of minutes there. Thank you, Ms. Yvonne.
Well, I think that was based on, there was quite a bit of chatter at that meeting. There's only one thing, and it's not really a correction of the minutes of what was said, but that it goes to the inaccuracy of what was
Well, what
said.
is it?
Okay, and that is not intended to criticize anybody,
No.
but, okay, on 422, and this is on the third page.
Okay. Yeah.
It says, as long as a manager lets the council know he is working, such a, a consultant in the
Right.
town,
Yeah.
he can hold the position. Now, that's inaccurate.
Okay.
What the council has to do is authorize that work. It's not as simple as, because there are things in government that if you just notify somebody that you're doing something, that's adequate.
So what do you want me to do?
In this case, no, because it's not a correction in the minutes, because that is what was said,
Yeah.
okay? But even though I think that the interpretation of what was said was wrong, but for the purpose of the minutes, it is accurate. And that's basically all I have. Denise, you have anything?
Well, I would say, would you not want to maybe make a comment in there that says much debate or something like, I know because down below it talks about it. She gets into the, chair does not agree, but most of us didn't agree with that statement, so.
If that's a clause that you would like to put in,
That's what I'm just trying to think is,
it makes sense in saying
Well, we can
anything like
stop,
that.
I can just change it by saying much debate was held on this subject.
Yep.
yeah,
On
And
on the following
on this
line,
subject
yeah.
of the town
And
manager.
continue to the next meeting
of the
or
manager,
what
let
was
the town
fine,
council
but
know.
that, it says that also.
Yeah, it says that on the bottom.
Okay, I'll just change that wording.
Okay, any other
Because it makes it
addition?
sound like it's a direct
Yeah.
statement, yeah.
Is there any other addition, correction, or deletions? Denise, anything?
I don't think so. I thought there's a lot of,
Okay, I'm not gonna rush you.
actually, where's the, I was reading that, I've got, let's see, front there. Flag that, right, yeah, okay. So that was flagged though, because there's a lot more discussion to be had on 414, yeah. Or, yeah, 414.
Yvonne, that was a good idea on the bottom, you put flagged items. Because there's gonna be a tendency, especially from my part, on items that we have flagged.
Well, that's what I thought too, because I thought if
All right.
they're not keeping track of these, we won't know where they were flagged, so.
Right,
Yep.
I've been wondering about
So
that.
I decided to list them at the end of every meeting.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you.
Denise, you still reading? Yeah?
No, I read before, I was just trying to see, I thought there was something in there, but I guess not.
You should write it on note on some.
Yeah, I know, usually it's just been well, Tuesday to, what was this, yesterday? No,
Yes,
never
I
mind.
know, I didn't get that.
We won't comment when we get.
Well, I'm sorry.
All right.
Somebody else can take them then. I'm sorry.
Oh, you kind of, yeah, where did that come from? Oh, if the contractors, oh, you notice you didn't, yeah, it was that comment about upon termination, the appointment of the contract expire. I mean, those were my comments, but it's not clear as to who's commenting, but that's okay.
Do you want me to stop putting names of whom it says what? Because I've never
Well,
done
no,
that.
but I mean, that was something that was a big informational point of
I
what we
know.
talked about because of the issues we had from before. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was, and that's the only reason is who brought that up.
Well-
It might be important, like it could be Dave's experience or Pam's experience, or might be, there was an experience on that, that was a
Well, I think
bad
that's,
experience.
I can put names of people when they say something every time if you want.
Not every time, usually it's just what I used to do is just condense, like,
So where do you want me to put your name?
no, it's no big deal, it's just like I said, it was one of those, there's an experience to that, that's why it got brought up.
Yeah.
Right, let's say there was a specific experience referred to.
Yeah. Commented on blah, 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 blah.
About,
But
let's say,
that's the
that
whole
past
time.
experience that maybe it would be appropriate to identify, let's say, who
Yeah,
might have
no
said
problem.
that. Let's say for future repercussion.
Yeah,
Do you want me
right.
to-
Yeah, I know, we might as well get it right so people know who to get mad at,
Do you want me to
right?
put it in here?
That's up to you, I'm just
Where is
looking.
it? I'm asking you.
Just, let's see, it's just a description, why is not up removal? It's kind of it's just in that, let's see, because you've got the upon termination,
Oh, I
of
see
the
it. I'm
contract
just gonna put
expired.
right here. Our biggest
yeah.
concern is that was where you started your thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Mainly because it's, in the past, it was said that it's
Yeah.
two separate things, and so it was suggested in future contracts,
Mm-hmm.
after the last problem, that term be made, that statement be made upon
Okay.
termination, the appointment and the contract. That way, it's clear.
Okay, I can
There's
do
no
that.
lingering effect, something like that, you know?
Yeah, see, and I think we brushed on it a little bit last week
Yeah.
also, that the better that contract is worded, it can make, let's say, provisions of the charter or bylaws a lot easier and make more sense if, let's say, that is done before, let's say, agreeing to a contract.
I said that it kind of eliminates the ambiguity of the need to have supposedly two votes, the vote to fire and the vote to unappoint, or something like that, which was some baloney.
It
that
could
was
save
being-
everybody a lot of headaches, the
Yeah.
better, let's say that.
Some lawyer's interpretation versus what our charter directly says in black and white. So,
Okay, getting back to the minutes. Are we done on additions, corrections, and deletions? And if we are, I will entertain a motion from one of you two.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair,
To
to
accept.
accept the minutes of March 20.
Okay, we have a motion, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous of those present?
No.
And Pam
Yeah.
Pam abstained because she was
Absent.
at work.
excuse.
Just did section, I'm missing the section 4, it's driving me on my mind. Should be writing this in the points.
Pam, I don't know if you had an opportunity on either local access or on YouTube to watch the last meeting that we had, because section 422 of the charter was very involved. And we had a lot of discussion on it. And the end result was we flagged it.
Yeah, they've been uploaded, they've been putting them on
Yep.
Southbridge YouTube.
It's not my intent to unflag it, but I want to revisit it just for a second. Since our last meeting, I had a little bit of time to do some research, and I would just like to present to the committee what I found in my research. I'll give you a copy of it. It's short and sweet. You have just one? Okay.
I got that.
You're one deep line. I'll put one over here, that's all. And, we had some discussion as to the meaning and the purpose of the comma. And some of the wording of 422 was basically centered on the interpretation of what the comma was. So I did a little research on the comma. And it's very short, and I would just like to read it out loud. Under definitions, comma. A comma is a punctuation mark that separates words, ideas, or phrases within a sentence. It is also used to indicate a pause in a sentence. I just started to read this. We're revisiting 422 for a second, or as long as the committee wants so. Second item, second definition, independent clause. An independent clause is a group of words that contains both a subject and a predicate and can stand alone as a complete sentence. These independent clauses in a sentence are separated by a comma. And then I define predicate. State, affirm, or assert something about the subject of a sentence or argument of a proposition. A word that predicates something about its subject. Now, the rationale, very short. The charter provision of 4-2-2 is a short paragraph that consists of two independent clauses contained in one sentence separated by a comma. The two clauses each contain the same subject and also contain a separate predicate, rendering the two clauses independent of each other within the same sentence. Now, after looking at this definition and purpose and construction of 422, I have come to the conclusion that the arguments made by people that disagreed at our last meeting about the purpose of that comma were inaccurate in that definition and meaning and how it would apply to 422. And so I just presented to the committee what I have found in my little research on it, and that's where we're at. Yes.
Mr. Chair, no disrespect or anything to your research, or nicely done, and I'm going to still respectfully disagree. And I do because I don't believe they stand alone. But regardless, I still believe that they are, in the context of how we discussed them last week. You're open to your opinion, we're open to our opinion. I don't know. I don't agree with what you're saying.
Everybody is welcome to their opinion.
Because as I read it different than what you're saying.
You know, are we gonna start forgetting in our role as a charter review committee on what we're looking at, let's say on any specific provision of the charter? And I think first and foremost in our responsibility is, does that provision offer the clarity? If it does, that's fine. If it doesn't, let's fix it. Second thing is, does it avoid any confusion? Any type of turmoil? And then thirdly, probably, you know, it's important, but probably not as important as, let's say, our role, is when it was adopted, what was the intent of the provision? What was the intent of the voters when they accepted it? Now, I can have an opinion that I don't think the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Now, I respect your opinion, and I know we disagree on it, but I could adopt the opinion that the sun's not going to come up tomorrow. That doesn't make me right. Now, you have your beliefs on what you think a comma means, so you're going to disregard what I'm saying here.
I didn't say that.
I'm not saying that as a criticism, that you don't agree with what's here. Because if you agree in what you said at the last meeting, this is a complete opposite. This research that I did is a complete opposite of what you thought. And also what the hell's the matter with me? Andrew thought when you made a comment and Andrew agreed with you on that comma, forgetting about the two independent standalone clauses that could stand alone as its own sentence in 422. That's what renders the independent. The comma has no meaning other than a separation in that point. Go.
The phrase "shall devote full-time the duties of the office." Shall, who shall? There's no, it's shall, there's no who, there's no. So we can keep going. I don't disagree with your definitions of comma or anything else. I'm just saying, as I read it, I read it differently than the way I believe the comma.
Okay, prior to the comma.
Prior to the comma, yes, that's
The town manager shall hold no elective or
other
appointed
office.
office.
Period.
That is an
period. No, what I'm saying
And
is
even, yes, that's the end
I'm
of the
agreeing
statement.
with you.
Okay, so that's an independent clause
I
of the
understand
sentence. Now, after the comma, shall devote full time to the duties of the office. Okay, that part of it, I think that's obvious. But after that is where that second independent clause, shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of council. That is the second independent clause that's constructed in this one sentence. Now, it's not my intent to argue my research, but that's what I found. And that's what I'm presenting to the committee. Now, do we want to go back and revisit 422? right now? Or do we want to keep it flagged for a future time? What's the wish of council? Of council, yeah.
What do you think, Ben?
Of the,
I was gonna say, what if we just made, if we
Shall is
restructured,
a verb, by the way, just so you know.
if we restructured the sentence, because the key point of contention is the fact that it's kind of a run-on sentence.
it's what?
That it's kind of a run-on sentence. There's many points within that statement of itself that brings contention to it because there's room for interpretation and lack of clarity. So what I just wrote over here was just something, at least an idea of maybe without advanced authorization of the council, comma, the town manager shall hold no elective or other appointed office, comma, nor shall engage in other business or in any other business or occupation, period. We separate the town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office from that statement. Therefore, it bringing clarity to the point that we're trying to make, that unless you have advance notice of the council, your job is to be the town manager.
Right.
By charter.
That's accurate.
That was just an idea that I thought maybe
Now,
rephrasing
and I
the
have
sentence
no
structure
problem
would
with
help.
that. The underlying theme, I think, of 422 is that they want, the voters want our manager, he or she, to devote full time to the position. I think that's the underlying factor of 422. Now, last week during the discussion, we never really got past, even though we flirted with different ideas, but we really didn't get over the comma between the two independent clauses. Because if, let's say we solve that argument and we went further with the discussion, because I think this, in Southbridge, at the last meeting, Yvonne brought that up, that the town manager shall hold no elective or other appointed office. That is covered. You brought up the point that that is covered under another section of the charter. Now, so the only, regarding that phase, the only other question that could be raised, that whether we want to address, is, does that mean, because you brought up the question at the last meeting, does that mean if that manager lives in another town, could he run for office in another town? Or be appointed to something in another town? Well, the beginning part of 422 doesn't offer that clarity. Now, I think it's safe to say that since we are covered under another section that's not allowing that the town manager is prohibited from running for office, in Southbridge. Now, if it is the wish of the committee to recommend that if the manager is not a resident of Southbridge and it's his desire to run for elective office in another town, whether that would be okay or not. I have my personal feelings that if someone's going to be in an elected office and where you work, you know, it's expected that it's a full-time job. Well, if you're going to hold elective office, I know that you will be interrupted during your working hours on dealing with items that are gonna pertain to your elected office. So potentially, can it draw from your time, from your full-time job? I know a lot of people say, oh no, I'd never let that interfere. I personally don't believe that. Denise?
Well, again, on the elected position, I know I brought up at one point, it's not just about elected positions. The reason I think it's okay to keep the term no elected, again, without this advance notice, I think the main point is that whatever this TM wants to do, it always has to be, at least, it has to be, they can't just do it. It would have to be with permission, and chances are most council, I mean, I would imagine most councils would see that as an issue. But I was looking at more on the, I said this, elected position. That could be something like Maya or whatever it is, when they elect officers, when they appoint, when they ask people if they'd like to be something, there's an election for that. So I didn't want that to, and it's a possibility that that would be okay with the council, that you serve on a board that elected you. So the strict definition of elected
Can I ask you a
could
question?
go both ways. I looked at Pam because she knows more things that managers might get elected to or appointed to, or, do you know what I'm saying? I was concerned about things that were in the best interest of the community of having their manager participate in versus things they
Can I
just
ask you
choose
a
to
question?
participate in.
Let's say like a Maya, because I don't know.
Me neither, it's just,
Or
that
even,
comes to mind.
WRTA. Your first entry level involvement, I don't know if, you're not even in it, they want to make you a board member or a board of director immediately? Or do they appoint you as a member of the board and then later in the future may be considered for, let's say, directorship, president of the organization?
I don't know, I'm just the term
So,
elected, that's where I came.
So to me, I don't look at that as elected. I look at that portion as more of an appointed position. And I look at, and I think elected is basically the voters of, let's say, your community voting for you to hold whatever position is.
There are some boards out there who want different town managers from different towns on their boards. On their committees or whatever, to represent the areas that they are in. There should be no issue with that to me, but they have to have prior approval of the council. Because it is to the benefit of our community if our manager represents us out there somewhere.
Like
There-
his, there
is that
town
advantage.
manager, John Smith, town manager of Southbridge, appointed as the chair of the WRTA. That wouldn't necessarily require him to give up his position, but would actually benefit us when we're talking about public transportation, which is an issue. That would, I think we actually came to an agreement on that, where
Yep.
it was like, hey, some of this stuff actually does help us out. This, in its current form, could be interpreted as restrictive. Our bottom line was we wanted advance notice of the council and authorization. And that way we can have on record, the town council approves of this, which, that's the only reason why I made the suggestion to isolate the language in its entirety.
And the only problem with what you just said, because your basic theory, I agree with you, but to apply that second portion of 422 to the beginning sentence, where council approval would be required for the first two conditions, I don't think is accurate.
Well, you just
Because
make it,
they're not related.
just make it two sentences. The
That's-
town
I don't
manager
know.
shall hold no elected
That's what I was
or
trying to
other
suggest,
appointed
maybe
office and shall
as an
devote
idea to
full
change
time-
language to.
And shall
You're
devote
better
full
with
time
language
to
than
the
I
duties
am.
of the office.
So that's why I threw it over to you.
I
you
would
understand the
have
premise
no
of what I was trying
problem
to
with
get
that
across?
and omitting that first clause that was prior to the comma. Just completely omitting it because we are covered in another section of the charter on that first phrase.
So if it said, the town manager shall hold no elective or other appointed office and shall devote full time to the duties of the office, period. The town manager shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of the council. No?
Well, because you got that appointive thing in the first, so he's saying get rid of no elective because it's in the,
Okay.
but you can't just you gotta say the town manager, you can't get rid of the town manager because that's the subject. And
Right.
you need a subject in a sentence or in a independent clause. You need a subject, and the subject is
Yeah,
not
the subject's the town manager.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's right. And
Now-
that's what makes it.
Well, then
it's
just say
independent.
so.
So
No other
the town,
no other
if, let's say
Yeah.
we adopt Andrew's thought, the town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office and shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of the council.
Well, yeah, that's not exactly what he wrote here, so. I just don't know that we need to, I mean, we need to change it, but I don't know that you want to completely rewrite it.
What's the wish of the committee?
So wait, so if you just look, if you just take out, so you don't like the elective because it's covered. So yeah, the town manager shall devote, because you would say the town manager shall, I think it started with the town manager shall devote full-time duties of the
Of the office.
to the duties of the office. Sorry, I was not reading right. To the duties of the office, and shall hold no appointive office or engage in shall hold no appointive office or engage in any other business or occupation without advancement. You know, those two things could go together. Get rid of the election part if you say it's covered. If it's covered, it's covered. But I'm thinking the reason they put it in here is because of other elective stuff that he might choose outside of Southbridge, because our charter only covers in Southbridge. So now the council has no way to tell him or her they can't hold an elective position anywhere unless you state that they can't hold any elective position still somehow. Do you understand?
It could be specified in the contract.
Okay, but are you gonna be here, I'm gonna be here when they do another contract? I mean, like, we're not,
That was back on
but if they
point
never do with the contract.
of section 6 on the bylaws. That on what my idea on reading of the bylaws. If you guys want to go back a little in time and remember when I brought in my sheet on what I thought it should read, and Pam's comments were that what I'm saying is spelling it out and should be part of, let's say, a council rule and reg or measure. So, and the more I thought about it, the more I agreed with her. So, but my only, even still today when I think about it, will council, if let's say this is adopted by the voters of Southbridge, will council take that next step and write a procedure like we do have for employees and citizens speaking at a council meeting? Now, from the time that was created and the time that rule was adopted, many years went by without any type of rule or stipulations concerning employees and citizens speaking at a council meeting. There was no such thing for years as, time limit. Just did not exist.
I understand. So I'm just, if the
It's the
election.
same argument on this, is, will council, will they make, because we're only establishing the perimeter. If they wanted to get down and dirty on, let's say, be more specific on some regulations, they have that authority to do that. Now, so the same argument's gonna apply as the other one. What will they do it? And we can't guarantee that from sitting here.
Well, then, as I just said, all you have to do is take out the section. You say, then you just do, the town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office and shall engage in no other business or occupation without, I take that back, I forgot to put the appointed in, I screwed that up with you.
Absolutely.
Town manager shall devote full-time duties to the office of the town manager, shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of the council, or hold any other appointed, I keep doing it again, I can't throw that word in. Hold other appointed offices, other appointed.
You do me a favor and read that again.
I know, right, I keep saying it wrong. The town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office.
I'm not writing it till you decide that that's what you want to say.
Duties of the office. Shall hold no other
Are you reading or are
appointed,
you thinking out loud?
shall hold no appointed office and shall engage in no other business with, yeah, that's what it is. That's why I keep scrolling. Okay, full-time duties to the office shall,
Okay, you're starting off. The town
No.
manager shall?
the town manager
Yeah.
shall devote full time to the duties of the office, comma,
Yeah.
shall hold no other, because he's appointed, right? So no other appointed office.
You have here shall
No, 'cause
engage
this
in no
is-
other business. Changing.
And shall.
How
hold on a
about
second, I wrote
appointed
it.
position?
Yeah, that's, I just crossed off, office, it's position, right?
Then that would
Shall hold
solve,
no other
let's say,
appointed-
the RTA question or anything along, let's say,
I
that
know.
line.
Not other, just shall hold no appointed positions and shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of the council.
I have no problem with that. Pam,
Well, let's
do you want to
redo it.
weigh in?
Okay, listen, what did you change?
Yeah, I forgot to put that in.
Shall do the office, comma. Oops.
We got kind of heated at the last meeting.
You don't say.
We had a lot of discussion and
Now
disagreement.
appointed, whatever, position. Comma.
That's one thing I
And
was
shall
saying
engage in no other else.
before we started, that since I had my stroke,
Or you can do it in 3 sentences or 10 sentences.
I kind of lost my patience.
But I will argue my point. Yeah.
I can't control.
And if you read the definition of independence,
Does that happen to you sometimes?
it requires a subject.
Now, is that generally a symptom, let's say, of having a stroke?
Talk about
said you're
Depends
an
what
English teacher.
part of
What?
the brain
And you
it
said you're not an
affects.
English teacher.
I'm not, but when I read
had
it and I look up the,
cerebral stroke.
Yeah, I have mine, one of back here, I know.
there, it's,
I get it.
Jimmy also died.
talk about it later.
And I went to school with Jimmy and friends.
Does that make sense?
We went to the wake, and I called Dave Dravinsky, and he was one of them. He had a cerebral. Walks with a
Now, somebody's gonna say, why'd you take out elective?
screwed up.
Cover later, it's redundancy,
Yeah.
eliminate redundancy.
I would say
Very
in a,
And we're all
I mean, it makes sense, in a, I don't think we did anything like that. In a,
I had two.
Huh?
I had two.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate.
in
Contract.
contract, sorry, that's the word, yeah, in a contract, that would make sense to specify those things as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is the consensus here?
Just take out a couple of words.
Were you adding some more changes, or?
The town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office, shall hold no appointed positions, and shall engage in no other business or occupation without advance authorization of the council.
Sounds great.
So it's pretty much the same thing, just worded around differently, that's all.
Now, were you talking about just adding something else, or?
We took out
No.
the word elected.
We took out the whole no elective, and we took out other, and we changed office, because that did, to position
Right,
versus office.
yeah.
Because technically, we're saying, that kind of defines the fact that we're not, he can't be elected to an office. Well, he shouldn't be able to be, you know what I mean?
All right, right,
The word office is a bigger,
right.
seems like a bigger
You know, in the
concept.
case that we're talking about covering under 422 is, let's say, MIAA or WRTA or those kinds of appointments that could lead to
And their
an
positions, they're not
advantage
really
to
offices.
Southbridge. So that's why I think by using, deleting that office where
Mr. Chair, I believe you would agree that one of the concerns we had was this is something that's not been adhered to regardless. Not
that it's
elected,
not been
appointed.
issued what?
It has not been being adhered to for many years that I'm aware of and that I believe you're aware of in terms of any recent town managers coming and saying, hey, I'd like to be on the board of something. How do you guys feel about that? That is not in my 9 years ever been, was never asked. So, just saying.
You know,
And yet we found
I
out
remember
that.
one of the things that might have changed some of the feelings of council. I was on council that appointed Florence Chandler as town manager. Remember, she was a part-time town attorney. She was also an elected selectman in the city of Saugus where she lived. And at the time, we had that requirement in charter that the town manager had 6 months to move to Southbridge. So if she actually did that up and left Saugus, she would have had to resign her position, I guess, in Saugus. And she really didn't want to do that. So what she did, she purchased a condo in Southbridge. And what she used it for is if, let's say there was a late subcommittee meeting or a late council meeting, instead of at the end of the meeting driving back to Saugus, she went to her condo, which basically covered our aspect of the charter that she had to take up residency. But how that shaped out with the city of Saugus, I don't know. And to be honest, I really didn't care how it worked out with them. You know, as long as we were satisfied was what I was concerned with.
I had to get the selectmen's approval prior to running for office in Southbridge because that was in my contract, in my employment contract. So I had to
With
get
your
there.
employment contract out of Southbridge, where you are now.
So I was employed by Webster,
Yeah.
and prior to running for council, I had to get the approval, the authorization by the Board of Selectmen, because they were my appointing authority, to do that.
Makes sense.
I want to retract my comment. I do recall, when I was thinking back, I do recall Chris Clark talking to council at his announcements about, I believe it was being appointed to, or wanting to, Maya or something. There was a time when Chris was on one of the boards, and he had brought it up to council at a meeting for our, I guess, approval or whatever, but it did get brought up. So I do recall one time,
So,
but anyway.
So, you know, but there's just one more point of what you said earlier. I think one of the biggest issues we got in the entire charter is adherence. And that has been a big problem. I am starting to see a little sunlight at the end of the tunnel that maybe council might be waking up to that regard, but I don't know, proof is in the pudding. Okay, is there any further discussion?
so you asked me if I wanted to
Yes.
weigh in, and now I do, after listening. So, Yvonne, you said that holding another elected or appointed office within Southbridge is already covered somewhere else in the charter?
Yeah.
I didn't see where it was, but
Yeah.
yes, okay. So, in that case, to me, I think it should read, the town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office and shall engage in no other business or occupation, period. I think that our town manager is, it's a full-time plus position, and I think for what they're compensated, and they should make the commitment to be completely committed to the town of Southbridge during their tenure. Second sentence, the town manager shall hold no elective or other appointive office without advance authorization of the council. That, in my opinion, would cover any appointment to a Maya board or something like that, that would require them to get the authorization of council, and to at least, if they're not, if they don't themselves have the respect for council, in my opinion, those are my words, to let them know this would then require them to do so. And I agree that, they are being appointed to those types of positions because of their position in Southbridge, and I think that it would behoove Southbridge to allow them to do so, as long as it's not too demanding on their time. But as far as
So
no other
basically-
business or occupation,
basically
I don't
the
even
only
think the
change-
council should be able to approve that at all.
Okay, so the only change that you're talking about is a modification
You're going
of what
back.
you two came up with.
Yes, going back
That
to-
if someone lives out of Southbridge, they would still require, if they wanted to run for an elected office, would have to still get, for out of town, the authorization of council to do that.
Yeah.
So adding that to what you two have put together, I think strengthens it a little more, and I think it covers it a lot better.
So for the record, I want to say, last week, the contention on the no elective position was technically, I won't say, I had no problem as long as they were giving authorization on it, but it seemed to be such a contentious no elective position that's why it just seemed like we'll just not let them have that option. Sort of like not having an option to have a job. So I had no problem with that either way. You can leave it in because and get permission as far as the election goes. Certainly, having no other job is great with me. I just, again.
And again, that's my opinion, but I think that
Based on
the manager for the
conversation
town of
last night.
Southbridge is a strong town manager, and I think he or she has their hands full. And I don't see any other reason, they need to make the commitment to the town of Southbridge fully, and there's no other reason for them to engage in any other business or occupation while they're doing so. My opinion.
And that first clause in 422, I can't get out of my mind that the meaning of that is for Southbridge.
No, but we
So-
talked about other towns, and you
Well-
had an issue with them being elected anywhere technically. and-
So since we are covered elsewhere
On the south.
about Southbridge, then we really don't have to address it. And I'm happy with the minor change that she's making,
Pam, could you repeat that, please?
that
The town
if they're gonna
manager,
run from out of town.
the town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office and shall engage in no other business or occupation.
No other
Period.
business or occupation.
Period. And then the town manager shall hold no elective or other appointive office without advance authorization of the council.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, if you, I'm employed by the town of Wales now. If our town manager lived in Wales and was elected to the zoning board of appeals, I mean, if I sat on council, I wouldn't see a problem with that, because the ZBA meets maybe 3 times a year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely, because,
so-
and depending on really what
What the commitment of that elected
Right,
office
what
is.
board it was,
Correct,
and,
absolutely. So I think they should have the ability to, if they live in such a town and choose to, or an election, again, we're using Maya, but an election to a Maya board, I think they should
It's my
have.
popular one.
do you know what to add? Okay, are we there?
Yep.
That's no problem.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to recommend the latest modification and amendment to 422. And Yvonne, indulge me, could you read it to us again? Just to make sure we got it.
Probably
Watch it on
wrong.
TV.
The town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office and shall hold no other business or occupation. The town manager shall engage in no, that's not right. The town wait a minute. The town manager shall devote full time to the duties of the office. Right?
shall
And
engage in no other
in
business or
occupation.
Period.
Period, okay. And then the town manager shall hold no elective or appointed office without prior authorization of the council.
Without advance authorization of the council, yes.
Okay, everybody good?
You asked for a motion, I say so.
Second.
Who made the motion?
He did.
Oh, you just did, okay, I thought, okay. You
Second,
made the motion.
seconded it.
Denise seconded it.
Sure.
Is there any further discussion?
So I can remove it from the flag section.
Yes. Everybody agree with that? That
Yes.
we move from the flag section?
Oh, I can take the F off my page. I gave it an F last week.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Unanimous vote of those present, of the committee.
Wow.
Okay, next item, 423. The manager shall, A, attend all council meetings except when excused, and shall have the right to speak but not to vote. Any issues, questions with A?
Right to speak
I-
on anything
I wanna
that
bring up- I wanna
pertains
bring
to
up
his
one.
position versus.
When you chaired general government and we were doing some of the review, Ron San Angelo brought up, attend all council meetings. It's council meetings, but it doesn't say subcommittee
I was
meetings.
just gonna say that should.
Now,
But now councils are joint.
so I remember my response was, my interpretation means all meetings, because if you look at the last paragraph at the top of page 9 of 421, it says, "This town manager shall serve as a resource to council." Now, the subcommittee meeting is supposed to be the backbone of council, where all the work and research and all that kind of stuff is done. So if there's any place, to me, it has more value to council to be a resource to council at subcommittee meeting and not so much at full committee meeting, because really your full committee meeting is held to pretty much finalize and authorize everything, make it official. So technically your work is done, but I personally, since it was a point of contention and could be misinterpreted, that it should read attend all council meetings and subcommittee meetings, comma.
Is that a motion, Mr. Chairman? or-
No, but I would
Well, I'm
entertain
gonna
it
make
as a
that, I'm
motion.
gonna make that a motion.
Okay, so
We
what do you
have a
want to say?
motion.
So attend all council meetings and subcommittees?
Well, all council and subcommittee meetings,
All
you don't have to say
council.
two twice, you can just.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Andrew seconded. Any further discussion
On the whole line or on just that?
on just A?
Oh, line. The shall have the right to speak should be when recognized by the chair. That tended to be a problem, but hopefully we'll never have.
Well,
that problem
I
again.
think all our meetings are basically governed under Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
And the right to speak
Maybe we should make that our,
should
a
be,
rule for the TM to have to revert.
once recognized by the chair. Now, that is one thing in my experience in government, whether I chaired a subcommittee or anything else, or even this committee, that I don't see a need to be that formal on recognition. That I interpret what we're doing, it's more of a workshop type of meeting as opposed to something that's a lot more formal. I don't see the need for the formality at our level of what we're doing.
At a council meeting though, Mr. Chair, but
Hmm?
at a council meeting, you.
Or anything I'm involved in.
Oh, you're involved.
Good thing.
But if, let's say I'm involved in something and someone's a chair and they decide that we're gonna do things formally, you know, I go along with that. That is not my preference, but I would go along with it. Did you want to add anything
No,
to
no,
that
no,
second part or
fine.
leave it as
Just
is?
a tweak spot in my historical perspective.
Okay, so under 423A, we have a motion.
Yes, from Pam.
And a second.
Seconded from
Is
Ed.
there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous of all. 423B. I think I'm gonna just add the manager shall, those first three words where it says 423. Town manager shall keep the council fully informed regarding town and departmental operations, fiscal affairs, general problems, and administrative actions shall keep the town council fully advised as to the financial condition of the town by filing written reports with the council not less frequently than quarterly throughout the year, shall provide the councilors with such town records and shall generate such reports as may be requested by the chairperson of the council or a majority of the council. Any discussion on B? Now, going back to what you said earlier, Denise, when we talk about compliance, this one has always been a big one. I think at least for the last 5 years, that council was not fully informed. Now, while you're looking at it, think about it. I just want to bring up one thing. I have kind of a problem at the end where shall generate such reports as may be requested by the chairperson of the council or a majority of the council. I personally would prefer to see that requested by the chairperson of the council or by the chairperson of the council. I would like to see that deleted. That any type of report could be generated by a request of council, or if we have to get formal, then by a majority vote of council. So it might happen once every 10 years, you might have a councilor that might request a report that's this thick and really not for good reason. So there could be some resistance by a town manager on providing that, that it's gonna take a lot of, it's gonna take some staff in the office, a considerable amount of time to produce that report. Really not really good use. That's possible.
Well, the finance director provides quarterly reports on the budget and stuff and expenses to the council.
Say that again?
The finance director does submit reports to the council and stuff on the budget and everything.
But we're specifically under 423, where the charter is demanding that the manager shall
Okay.
do it. Now, it would be more than appropriate for, let's say, the finance director to supply any type of report or information to the manager, and then the manager distribute that to council. I see your wheels turning over there.
Well, the filing of the written reports versus updating, you know, court, you know what I mean? I just don't know that it's necessary to, I don't know, it just seems a little bit odd.
Well, okay.
Because you already say they're gonna be using, they're keeping them fully advised of the financial condition of the town by filing written reports with the council. I mean, every memo,
Well, I don't think it would be every month, but I think we were covered in that case when you were when you chaired general government and your final year that you chaired the council. Okay, your transfer policy that council adopted while you were there. There was a requirement that you guys put in it that council was to be informed monthly, receive monthly, so
Of the
filing
transfers.
of written,
Right.
I want to say monthly reports.
right,
That would be covered pretty much under this section,
but that didn't get done though.
but it did, again,
Because that was the checks and balance. But
hey, I wish that we could put in here, but we can't. Let's say the last sentence of the charter, that if you personally violate the charter, it's a $500 a day fine. And each separate day shall constitute a different fine or a different violation.
yeah.
But we can't do that.
Also,
Now, we can do that on bylaw, bylaws, stuff like that, town, but not on a charter provision.
right, there's no accountability on that respect. There's no policing yourselves, as the state tells you to do. The also generating reports requested by the chairperson of the council or a majority. I'm sorry, councils, I think even when the chairperson wants something, unless it was because the council wanted it, I mean, why is just the chairperson demanding reports and getting them behind the other 8 councilors' backs, perhaps, or whatever? I find that to be a little bit, I'm an all for one, regardless, and I find that a bit, just one person gets to request it. Because if the chairperson's doing it because councilors want it, then was it a majority of councilors?
Okay, in my only
So you agree with
suggestion,
the chairman then that it should be
Yes, we-
majority?
Yeah.
No,
Right, no, I believe it should be a majority,
Yeah.
absolutely.
and let's say the only point,
Because what if it's 2 councilors and the chairman who are looking for dirt or whatever it is they're
No.
looking for, but they don't tell the rest of the council? That's wrong. It's just wrong.
if I'm elected to the council, let's say that you're elected to and you're the chairman, and we bump into each other on a Saturday at Big Bunny, and I say, Madam Chairman, can you get me a copy of the pavement study?
But you can, as a councilor, can ask for that yourself.
But it would be easier, you as the chairman, wait a minute, to pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. Town Manager, can you get this over to Dave Smith you requested? No problem.
I disagree, because the chairman runs the meetings. The chairman does not do everything for the independently elected councilors. The independently elected councilors have the right in their own elected position to get something. So I don't know. No, I don't know.
But I think of the council,
But you were talking about we're trying to generate, the reports were, she's
You're
bored.
talking about reports here.
Yeah, I know, this is a
It's a
different,
different thing as a request. for
but every
report.
councilor represents the people of this community. If one
okay,
councilor's worried about the
and I agree with you
So I don't know.
100%.
I just don't think
Who
it's the
should have
chairperson's
the best relationship with council that would affect a chairman of the council requesting something? Is the town manager gonna respond to a request of the chairman before they respond to the same question from, let's say, me? And I think human nature would say yes. So it might be easier.
I don't agree.
Put too much power on the chairperson, that's
Yeah,
right, the
wow.
Well,
chairperson's
they-
duties.
And I think
And
when that goes.
I can tell you right now, I would bet money
But that doesn't mean it's right just because you're.
Wait a minute. I would bet money that our existing chairman could make a request of our existing town manager, and the same request made by some other nameless counselor,
Who gets everything else?
that the chairman would get that report quicker and faster. I disagree with you, because that's human nature.
Well, it's not the way it runs in the office that we run now, or before. When a
It's
counselor.
never run that way.
No,
that I
when
know
a
of.
counselor calls and asks for something, we give it to them within a feasible amount of time. And what we've been doing lately is if one counselor asks for it, we send it to all eight.
And then also,
Right way to do it.
a chairman of council, when he's sitting in that town manager's office, having, even if it's just an agenda review and you're putting it together, that chairman in that manager's office is a representative of those other 8 counselors that he's the chairman of.
That's true.
And that's what he is.
But that doesn't mean that the other counselors don't have the ability, if they're working
Oh,
on something, to
I
ask
didn't
for,
say they don't
to ask
have the
for
ability.
something.
I,
They get whatever they ask for.
chairperson was elected to run meetings and set the agenda based on, I just find it puts too much, albeit the manager disrespects the councils.
And maybe again because I'm old school, but when I was on council and the chairman of that council was in an office with the town manager discussing issues, that was part of the information pipeline, okay? Because that chairman was in there as our other 12 he represented us, the entire council, when he met with that manager. He wasn't on his own. He wasn't a self-appointed king or queen or whatever.
Well, then you might want to change B altogether because it says keep the council, not the chairman, keep the council fully informed regarding town and departmental operations, fiscal
And
affairs.
if you want to talk about the council in a loose manner, okay, and if you look at your council membership, well, who's the person that heads that up? Who's the one person that's going to represent the other 8 members of council today? That's the chairman. I don't want to read too much into this. Okay, but we're getting there. We're getting there. My general feeling is, if you're an elected official and you have a request for a report from a town manager, you get the report. End of discussion.
All counselors can do that.
Everybody.
Then it
And
shouldn't be the chairperson.
But you
majority vote.
know, in real life, that is not always happening.
Okay, then what do you recommend, Mr. Chair?
I already said, right now, drop the chairperson, because that chairperson might be in agreement with the town manager of not giving that counselor the information they're requesting. So I'm saying, to clean it up a little, drop chairperson
But not
of the
majority.
council.
But not majority.
As may be requested
But not
by a
what?
majority of the council.
A majority of the council.
But not the majority of the council.
Right.
Because if push comes to shove, and let's say we have a manager, and he or she, let's say, doesn't want to produce that report, the final decision, a majority of council is ordering that report. End of discussion.
So, Mr. Chairman, my motion will be, such town records and shall generate such reports as may be requested by a majority of the council.
That works. Any other questions, comments?
Well, with the exception that if they take it literally, because what we're saying is we want them to follow the charter, then if I want to look at because I'm DPW subcommittee chair and I want to look at the, roads plan, I can't get it without majority of the council. if.
Yeah, but I don't take this that way.
Right, I don't either, so I'm just making sure that we're clear, because the whole point of every time we do a paragraph is to make it clear.
Yeah, I don't take that way. I mean,
I found that this is
if
a
you're
special
requesting,
report.
correct,
This is like
that's how
special
I take
stuff.
this,
Right,
is-
okay. All right, as long as we take it in the same way.
you're giving the town manager a project to do, to
Right,
generate some
generate a
type
special
of, gather
report.
information and data and
Right.
create something for
To
you,
make him do something.
other than, can
Versus
I have a copy of the
requesting.
payment management plan?
And
Just
to
making
be-
sure we're clear.
Yeah, that's
Denise,
how I take it.
To be fair, I know of examples in the past that a town manager jointly with the chairman of the council agreeing that Councilor B requested a report and that councilor did not get the report. And I think that's wrong.
So the counselor should bring it up to his or her fellow counselors and say, can you please,
Yeah.
I'd like this report, can you please,
I've been
You
here
know,
10 years and never done that.
back me up and I guess
No,
take a vote?
you know,
I mean, that, which is sad.
I've said this earlier,
That's
you
sad.
know, not that it
You know.
makes a big difference to some people, but I've been a student of this government for 42 years. And I've seen some crazy stuff
Oh, sure.
happen in this town.
Oh, yeah.
Today though, with the technology of things and stuff, it's so easy when a counselor asks for a report to send it to them in 5-10 minutes electronically. And when I do that, I send
Oh,
it to
the
all,
advantage
and
we
I
have.
send it to all of them.
Are unbelievable.
So, not one
And
knows
personally,
anything about it.
I think that's the way it should be handled.
That's where we've been handling it.
If we're
since
all
I-
councilors here and you ask for a report and it's gonna be generated like that on the computer,
And to
then
all.
it should be sent to a copy should be sent to everybody.
All the
Well, no,
companies.
I
You
think
referred
it's-
to the council of 13, Mr. Chairman. That's
Oh.
that's how I was,
And how we did our information
that's what I
on a lot of
started
this
my
stuff.
career.
But even
Because
since
that's
this
why
was
we were a little
adopted,
bit
the
more,
technology
yeah,
has changed so drastically.
insistent that chairman of council
Since I've been here, and
was
12
our
years now.
representative in
Chris
there.
Scott used to say,
But that doesn't need to be,
one
And-
you know,
and
indoctrinated
even
into
flow
a
of
charter. That's the
information.
that's the way it works. I mean,
council, and been doing
If Scotty Lazo was the
That's just the
chairman, for
easiest way.
example,
That's
he'd
just
meet
not
with the
gonna happen.
manager, come out of the meeting,
transparency.
and let's say Scotty received some important
It doesn't
information.
matter whether you want them to have.
The phone chain
He
started.
doesn't want it, he doesn't have to read
There
it.
were no cell phones back then. We didn't even have.
There's
beepers.
also no open meeting law
That's where I'm at.
situation.
Oh, there wasn't.
Somebody asked for something,
No,
else, like, I don't need it, like the school committee,
Just so you know.
we obviously
Well,
have it for backup.
And the
Keep a
thing
file
was,
of it.
you know, we weren't doing
Like, I'll read it
anything
when I need to.
illegal,
I don't have it,
but
I didn't ask for it.
just the sharing of information on even, let's say, a subject that, what Yvonne's saying is, you know, one council is requesting some information that she's gonna get that council the information electronically. Then at the same thing, she's gonna hit a button and send it to all councils. And I agree 100% with that.
Absolutely.
If it's a report that's generated, it's not a problem to do. If it's a report that's not generated, they have to wait. It's the way it goes. But this is a.
Okay, where are we on this one?
So this is the town manager who has to provide these reports on a frequent basis, quarterly throughout the year. That's what this is all about.
Right, because council can't request that report of you.
No.
The council only has one employee in this town. One. That's the town manager. And they can request whatever they want from that town manager. But they can't do that to you. Huh? No. Oh, that was just a laugh, okay.
Real world, or are we talking?
Okay, Pam, could I ask you to read your offered amendment again, please?
So we're gonna, I'm suggesting that we strike the chairperson of the council or, and just that, the end of that sentence say, and shall generate such reports as may be requested by a majority of the council.
Okay.
Second.
Okay?
We have a motion, a second, any further discussion?
Who's the first motion? Pam?
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous of all present. Okay, C. The manager shall keep the council fully informed as to the long-range needs of the town, the practices and governmental trends of other communities, and the laws and regulations of the Commonwealth, and make such recommendations to the council as deemed necessary and appropriate.
Still out there.
Personally, I don't see a problem with C, other than, you know, the general statement of adherence, enforcement, you know, that kind of stuff. But I don't see any issue with C. Any other comment? Denise?
No, okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on from
Stays
C.
as is. Agree,
Oh.
all agree that it stays as is?
Yeah.
Okay, 423, D. Prepare, assemble, and present to the council the annual town operating and capital budgets. Shall present said budgets to the council in a format acceptable to the council and cooperate with the council in all financial matters.
Sorry.
Now, with all due respect, Ron Sanangelo was here. Okay.
Stop picking on.
That just did not happen.
Oh, come on now, it did.
It was 100% dependent on that budget formulation of our department heads.
And the finance.
And
And
he
that's
could
what
not
the line
answer a
item was.
question or be specific on anything.
What does that mean? Yvonne, where are you, Yvonne? What does the office budget mean? Oh, wait a minute, Karen, can you tell us what that line item is? Chief, tell us.
We don't have that problem anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any comment regarding D? Discussion? Or are we leaving it as is? And pray to God that in the future we have a manager that
Well, did
is
you
going to
s-
stay on top of
Did you
this
see
stuff.
his budget presentation this year?
I have not seen, is that
Watch it.
online
Yes,
yet?
it is. It's on the town council meeting of March 29th.
It's what?
It's on the YouTube council meeting on March 29th.
Okay, but, no, I mean, he was going to submit,
He did his budget presentation.
yeah, but he was going to submit the actual budget online.
Yes.
Then I could, has that been on, is
I-
that
I
on
will
yet?
check on that.
Okay. Because I thought he even said,
Yeah, he did.
to that respect, that it was going to be on the next
Yeah.
day.
I think that could be my fault if it's not, but I'll check it out.
Well, please stop dropping the ball.
I know, it's just call and competency, what can I say?
Okay, if there, no other comments or questions about D, we're gonna move on.
So that agreed, all stays as is?
So on D, stays as is. Okay, E. The manager shall serve as general ombudsman for the town. Now, first I want to ask, does everybody understand what an ombudsman is? Because I can tell you, for a long time, I didn't know what it meant. And when you look and you see what it means, I think E should be gone completely from this charter.
Really?
Yes.
I don't.
You don't what?
No, I'll be flat out. I don't know what an ombudsman is.
Say again?
I don't know what an ombudsman is.
Oh, if you look up the definition, let's say in our case, we're all counselors, and a citizen might have heard something about maybe one of us counselors might be doing something illegally, that they could report it to your ombudsman, and your ombudsman does the investigation. So what I would be, good evening, Counselor. What I would be opposed to, or am opposed to, I don't personally like the idea that on any type of a charge like that, whether founded or not, that the manager would have the right to technically investigate his bosses. I have a problem with that. I would rather see if someone has a question about maybe wrongdoing of a council, you could go to the police. If it's a legal issue, maybe file a complaint, let's say to the town attorney. And then the attorney can take it to where if it's something that's even more serious, could even bring it to the DA. But I just have a general problem with a manager doing an investigation of a member of council.
But this doesn't specify a member of
Yeah,
council.
and it's for anything.
It
It
says
could be a
all the time.
business,
It
a
could be-
financial institute, it's a.
Okay, so what, okay, so he's the ombudsman for what?
For
Business in Southbridge?
No, but if a citizen had a problem with something in town, I mean,
If we get a complaint,
yeah, if a citizen calls and says,
Can
hey,
you read?
I will, would you like?
Please, I would like you to read
Okay.
the entire definition.
And an ombudsman, I used to say omnibudsman, I used to say ombudsman.
Yeah,
Is an official,
Yeah.
usually appointed by the government, so, okay, who investigates complaints, parentheses, usually lodged by private citizens, end of parentheses, against businesses, financial institutions, universities, government departments, got a problem with the police, the fire, whatever, or other public entities, that could be a council member, I gather, but seems odd, and attempts to resolve the conflicts of concerns raised by either mediation or goes on. What's another name? Does it have another name? Watchdog, supervisor, scrutinizer.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, but if someone came to me with a charge against one of my selectmen, I'd be completely hands off that.
right,
Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the town manager wouldn't even take that on,
Right.
I don't think, as a professional.
right. But
They would know better, but for
It's
all
charged
of
with
the other
representing you.
things.
to serve as
yes,
general
it's their
ombudsman for the
responsibility.
town,
Yes.
okay?
Right.
Would cover for those areas. Now, yes, you do have a legitimate point on your other statements, but when you talk about government,
What do you mean? Appointed by the government, appointed by the
no,
government is
no,
the,
keep at the end of the sentence.
well, I can also go to the other, there's different versions, Wikipedia is different than the last one I was.
Okay, Denise, what I asked you to read at the end of it,
All right.
you said businesses, a couple of other examples, and you said and government.
Members of government or something like that.
Yeah.
Public entity, wait, hang on. The complaints lodged against businesses, financial institutions, universities, government departments, or other public
Right.
Okay.
entities.
Government departments.
And public entities, it doesn't necessarily mean a counselor, it could mean any public, when you think of any kind of, it could be the, well, it could also be anybody who's charged with the exception of the council.
Right.
And he would, if he was a
The
smart
police
man, he
chief,
would
the fire
recuse
chief.
himself from trying to be the ombudsman from his
Correct,
employer.
absolutely.
it
Because
could
we
be
are-
anybody in any
Doesn't
department.
they attempt to resolve
Absolutely.
conflicts or concerns raised by either by mediation or by making recommendations. So he might step outside of it if it was a if it was a council, he could step outside and appoint somebody else. So
Oh, I completely.
he's still the
hands off.
ombudsman for the community, but not the
The only
council.
thing that I'm saying, yes, I agree,
Okay.
anything but investigating
Okay, so
a
serve as
council.
general ombudsman for the town in all matters exclusive of the council or something like that,
Oh,
Just throw something-
Yes, I like that, okay? Because it's taking him out of the loop.
I mean, I think that anyone worth their salt would say, I don't want
I mean,
anything
it's
to
a
do with
direct
that.
conflict of
Right.
interest.
But that is,
Yeah, it would be a
That
conflict.
would make
I
you
mean,
feel
it's
better,
direct
though.
conflict of
So-
interest, you'd have to point. an
okay, so I think at a minimum,
Authority.
let's clean up E a little bit.
All right, so what did you say, Denise? In all matters, Other than
in all matters for the town with the exception of council, or those affecting council, or those involving council, those
involving council.
Matters related to,
related to council.
directly to council.
Well, that could, yeah.
Or A counselor.
Yeah, counselors, individual counselors, no, or,
How about
Town council.
except
Members
for
of the town
members?
council.
Or members of the town council, right?
How
with
about
the
that?
exception of members of the town councils, yeah.
There you go.
Because I think it, obviously, I've never seen anything like that ever happen in Southbridge. But if it did, think about that, like in your case, that would be a very uncomfortable working situation for you to be in.
I wouldn't even,
So that's all I'm trying to avoid.
So the motion is to add, serve as general ombudsman for the town, except as related to members of the
in all
council.
in all matters,
Except in all matters related to members of the council.
no, so it's general ombudsman for the town in all matters.
Yep.
Other than members of the council?
Other
is that
than
what-
those involving members of the council, of the town council.
Okay.
You're offering that as a motion?
I think, well,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just,
fine.
Oh,
No, yes, that's good, no,
but
that's,
yeah, okay.
okay, we have a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, we're clear on the final wording.
You want me to read it again, David?
Is it necessary?
I got it.
Okay,
I think we're good.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous of all present. Wants to break a minute to see if Councilor Adams comes back in?
He
Yeah.
he
He's
only
looking for
wants to be here
specific,
to
yeah.
discuss the subject of, what did I just see?
Is it 431,
431.
the boards?
No,
Yeah.
hold on a minute.
Section 3?
432,
Or 432,
which we may not get to because it's already in the
yeah,
file.
unless we
Now,
go to it.
Dave, you want to come up, pull up a chair, let's say in the corner, you can sit up here?
I don't want to jump.
Because we're gonna stop, we're on,
Well, he unflagged the map
423.
at the beginning, which took an extra.
we
month.
can pause to take a break where we are, and here.
Hey, sir, I can come back at the next meeting. I was just making sure I
Oh, we'd
didn't.
love to have more
While
people
you're
to
here.
No, is that-
it's,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I
we
appreciate
can
it.
jump to 43-2 if that's the only subject you're looking at.
That was it. I just wanted to kind of do a clarification,
Oh.
Mr.
Do we
Chair.
all
Of,
agree?
of what section?
43-2,
432.
432, Dave.
I was just reading this other about the unofficial, but I'm curious, it's a
Got it?
long, ombudsman.
And I brought paraphernalia too, so if you,
Is that legal?
it's legal. It's needed
You
at
have
all.
started.
And some history on it. I thank you, Mr. Chair, for having me. I apologize if I'm jumping in the mind of anything that you guys were already doing. I was just listening to the budget and it's over now.
All right,
For
so,
tonight.
hang on here. Mr. Chair, do you want to mention that section, where we're at?
Say again.
Well, Councilor Adams is looking at section 3, which is power to.
Section 432.
Right, but it's under section 3, power to appoint town boards and commissions, and it's specifically 432. That,
Correct. So,
or 433. 432? 432?
well, it goes both, actually, in a sense. I just wanted more of a clarification. Under 432, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I noticed that it talks about World War I Memorials trustees. So that was, I'm doing some research right now for the Veterans Council on a big initiative that's happening with the Veterans Council. We'll be approaching the town council in May with. And we did some homework a couple years ago where a board was found called the Trustees, Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, and Airmen's Memorials Board. So we found that, we adopted that into a bylaw because they're responsible for the monuments of the veterans within the town, instead of Mr. Trumbley, who was doing everything at that point. So we did this. Now we're doing this initiative. Now this initiative talks about, when I did my history or my research on it, there was a World War Memorials Committee that was set up in 1938. And it was set up for a purpose of the World War I monument on Elm Street. Actually, it's not World War I, it's called the World War Memorial Park. the oldest public park in the town. That board hasn't probably existed for a very, very long time, nor probably the individuals that were put on the committee are even alive to this day. I think under 433, the trustees would fall because it's like a catch-all. But I didn't know if you guys would consider removing the World War I Memorial Trustees and replacing it with the Trustees Memorials Board that we have now, or just let it do a catch-all under 433, which is not otherwise provided within this part of the charter.
Okay, now, my initial feeling on both paragraphs of 432 and what it says. Now, if we back up, if we want to go, do you have a copy of your charter of 424?
I don't have the whole copy, no, I just had the under 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Denise, can you share
No, I've
a
got it
copy
here, I'm
of your 424?
I've got it.
Okay,
You mean 424?
yes. I want to back up a section, a couple of sections from where they're talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, and because this is a thing that causes question to me. On the last sentence of 424, the last sentence of the first paragraph, let me just pick it. And such other individual town officers, and this is regarding the appointment by the town manager, as are authorized by general laws, this charter, or town bylaws, and for whom appointment is not otherwise provided. So if, let's say, we forget a particular board, let's say in the charter on who the manager is empowered to appoint subject to council confirmation, that last sentence basically covers for if it wants to, you want to consider it an oversight. I don't ever want to think and say that under 432 that any of these positions or boards don't rise to the occasion that they should be singled out and named. But when I see 432, knowing the last sentence is here under 424, even would there be a need for 432? Yes, Denise.
Well, I would point out only one thing. While on 432, it just talks about the other town boards, commissions, constables, commissioners of trust funds, and then it's specific to the wording of World War I Memorial Trustees. And the reason, so you can't just ignore that there's a specific name listed here, and it has to be because there was trust money or there was some type of funds that accounted for that, and that's why.
But does that mean that it has to be individually noted?
No,
and
I don't say it
mentioned in
has
the
to be.
charter?
I don't say it has to be, but it is. It is. We can't just pretend it doesn't. It's not. We can't just
Okay.
recommend that it's gone because there's a reason, and once it's.
Okay, and what is that purpose that it's
No, no.
listed?
I'm trying to get at, only because, and I'm not an expert, I'm just giving you what's popping in my head as what your words are, and what your words, okay? So, SBP was it had a specific group, downtown partnership, it was linked with the town, there were monies involved, and it was spread out amongst the bank and all this other stuff, and it was not that easy. It was called the downtown partnership, and it had a legal monetary entity, government regulated in some way, that when it came time to become, because it was defunct for years, but there was money sort of hanging, whatever, it couldn't just.
Does the council appoint the membership of that committee?
Downtown partnership had something to do with the had something to do with there.
No, the town council.
You're missing my point, though. I'm talking about a legal point. I don't care about council. I'm talking about legal, financial, state government, because it says laws.
Denise, we're starting.
David, you go over. David,
No.
could you just let me finish my thought, please? Can I just-
Continue your thought.
Because you.
Continue your thought.
Thank you. So my thought process is, something exists here, And there may have been monies involved or trusts of some sorts, which is a legal entity under the words you said, which are not otherwise provided for state, or whatever it was you said here on the first one. Let me go back to it here where it says general laws. So all I'm pointing out is, all I'm saying, if in your research, it's kind of like when people, let me better for you. The old firehouse was given to the town to be a firehouse in 1800 or whatever. Well, guess what? Everyone's dead, gone, whatever, it's supposed to be an old firehouse, but the reality is it an old, I mean, nowadays life has changed. Does it stay an old firehouse, or have times changed and it was sanctioned by the town council? It's kind of a, well, what does general law say about that? Does it have to stay because that's how it was willed, or has it changed? Has law changed? Now we go back to what you're asking. It's listed here for some reason. Maybe there was a trust, a financial, under the law of Massachusetts kind of a thing, and now it's here in our charter. To pretend it doesn't exist, or to just say, yes, Dave, you can now take over whatever World War part, whoever they were, and call it soldiers, sailors because you made a bylaw, because somebody read it, didn't read it 3 times maybe, or did. And it became a bylaw because council waved their magic wand at 9 and said you're a bylaw. I'm just saying, there could be. I'm not saying we should deny what he's asking. I'm only saying there must be a reason, way back, why they singled it out. And it could be, historically, it had a money thing, it had a legal, a general laws thing, or whatever you want to call it. That's all I'm saying. And the general laws are cited. You can't go against general laws, Mr. Chair. So I'm just saying that authorized
Dave
by
looks like
general
he
laws.
came prepared
Yes,
to
I'm sure
answer
he
that.
did, right.
No, and the reason why is it's a valid point. It's not that I want to get rid of it, it's, is it relevant anymore to what
Right.
we have today?
And how can we legally?
So, and I will say is, yeah, I did do some more homework.
Good.
What I'm providing you is,
I would say
and your point is taken as far as the validity, was there funds? Yes, there were funds. What I'm providing you is the article of 1938, March 14th. I don't know if you could read it.
Oh my goodness
I can print
gracious.
out even better. And, let me see. Look at the pictures.
Dave, with all due respect, okay?
Absolutely.
Now, under your proposed, what is it? 3, I'm sorry.
1930, okay, I see it now.
Okay, this is the existing bylaw?
That is the existing bylaw, but based on a mass general law of the state.
Ah,
Okay, and the reason why I'm saying, and if you guys say no, that's fine. I just want to clarify it. Bear with me, please.
did you do that on purpose?
Yes.
Okay, because, forgive me,
Yes.
because even until 3 minutes ago, I did not know what you were looking for. But now, others here obviously knew that prior, okay?
No,
I did mention then that I want to talk to you, that's all.
Wait a minute. As you were sitting down, you
He
said,
told
what do you
me
want?
yes, because he told me that, let him know when we get to this.
And that's all I'm saying, is
Okay.
that others knew, and I did not. That's
So,
all I'm saying.
Well, then we all get
Okay,
our.
so I'm asking for your forgiveness, that I did not know what you were looking
Military
for.
home for 193.
That's all I'm saying.
This I'm all aware of.
This is
So, Mr. Chairman, may I, Mr. Chairman, through you to Counselor Adams, please. So, my first question is, you mentioned that there had not been a World War I memorial trustees in quite some time, appointed in quite some time?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Not at least since I've been here, nor can I find any minutes.
All right, so there's and I don't recall, ever, and I worked for the town in 1986, so I don't recall that. So there's one thing that, one of our pet peeves, I think, and I think we're all in agreement about that, the town manager shall have the power to appoint and did not, okay. So my second question is, the treasurer is in the custody of the funds?
So I have checked with Ms. Juarez, and there is no
There is no account?
fund.
There's no account.
Okay,
Correct. Now, there was back in 1925 to 1940, before World War II even kicked off. So, but as far as what she has in front of her, I specifically asked for it. She doesn't have any account named after that for trustees or whatever.
Okay.
So, and I've gone.
So there was a trust form prior to World War II
Yes.
that we can find no record as of right now in the town of Southbridge that it exists today.
Correct. Oh, that, I don't know if it exists today. I've talked to the finance director. She has no line item, no nothing from that whatsoever.
And the treasurer has nothing in her
Oh,
file?
the treasurer, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it would be the-
Karen, I did. I checked with Karen.
Okay.
I checked with Melissa.
You didn't?
I did not.
So, well, it would have to be on Karen's books anyway. If the treasurer is in custody of funds, it needs to be on the accountant's books. So, again, and I'm sorry, I'm
It's
not
okay.
aware of this, but, so who was responsible prior to the establishment of the trustees here? Who was responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of the memorials? That was Mr. Tremblay?
That was, but it wasn't part of his job description.
It wasn't, okay. And as far as funding to do so, is it included in the DPW's budget? Is it in a veteran's budget?
So you do receive, the town of Southbridge, I'm sorry, the Veterans Council, which is the not-for-profit organization,
Correct.
receives $2,700 per year for supplies and any type of upkeep
From who?
from the taxpayers.
Okay, so that's illegal.
So this has been going on, I believe, since the 70s and on up.
That's a violation of the 88th Amendment of the Massachusetts Constitution. The town cannot make a donation to a private
So-
organization.
Okay, so it does go through the Veteran Service Officer, and then from there, the town provides the check to the.
So
veterans.
they must submit some type of bill, and that's how
Yes,
it's,
thank you. See, I'm not an. I'm
okay.
not-
So that must be how it's.
So what we do is every single year, we provide an audit. Matter of fact, Keith Roberts and I will be sitting down in the next couple of weeks, because I'm the president of the Veterans Council. He's the Veteran Service Director, provides that type of budget. We sit down, we do an audit. Last year, we spent $4,100. We provide all receipts.
Yeah.
I sign off on the letter,
And
and it's
they
given,
generate a bill.
and they get all the receipts with it.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
okay. So that's fine, okay.
Okay, all right.
So that's how that works. I'm sorry, I just have to have in my head how this works.
No worries.
So what you're requesting is that we change World War I Memorial Trustees, since that group has not been appointed for forever, and change it to be to mirror the bylaws. This trustees of soldiers, sailors, marines, and airmen memorial,
Yeah, or just keep it under 433, which I think is a catch-all.
for whom appointment is not otherwise provided.
Good. That's all I was looking at.
Oh, okay, I'm starting to get a little better handle on, now, what you printed here, what you just handed out to us, that chapter 41.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's calling out for an elected in towns. Okay, down here on the first page.
So it's gonna be your first, all the way down to where it says towns, and it'll probably end when we accept it. Unexpired term.
Yeah.
So wait, Dave.
In town, okay, it's the last sentence. In towns, the said board shall consist of the chairman of the board of selectmen and 5 members elected by the town in the same manner as other town officers.
So if you were to look, Mr. Chair, the first 10 lines, this is what we accepted as a town. That's under our bylaws.
Under 3221.2, or establishment.
41105.
This one.
Right. Okay, well, Dave, what do you point to right now? It's
So-
off of this?
Right, I'm looking at this, and it's under section 105,
Yeah,
before that last sentence you just read.
yeah.
So all that is where the town accepted the bylaw from that specific.
Okay, but those are provisions for cities,
Right,
okay? So, according to state law, there is a process here that is specific for towns and another process specific to cities. Okay, and Southbridge as a town should not adopt any procedure or policy that's specific in state law that pertains strictly to cities when there's also a specific requirement of a town.
I think this goes back to an argument we had, or a discussion we had in previous meetings on we don't operate as a standard town form of government. We more closely resemble a city form of
We are
government
a
without
town
a chief
form of
executive.
government.
Right, but no, I think that we're getting back into the splitting hairs situation.
I don't think it's a splitting here. Now, what might cause a question, Denise, you and I have had discussions about this in the past, about, remember the old chapter 790? It was a state special provision that was for the town of Southbridge, which has been repealed. And it was a vote of our legislature, it was voted by the legislature in Boston. And in 2003, when the elected charter commission was formed, or sometime later, that provision of state law, that special act of legislation, was repealed. Now, it was also during a time period that I did not pay attention personally to what was happening in our community. So, a legitimate question that I'm going to have when we get to almost the last page of the chapter, where did chapter 790 go? And who repealed it? Because it has a specific purpose. And I think it can also open up a lot of specific problems. Dave, I'll let you take a peek at this, okay? Okay. This is what was attached to our prior charter on the back, that chapter 790 was adopted by the legislature for the town of Southbridge. Now that's the last page of our last charter that we had before this new one.
When was this 3221 adopted as a bylaw?
Oh, it had to have been 2 years ago.
Just 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was recently, but, well, yeah, it was been a couple of years.
So, and the council's reasoning was to appoint this board and as written in 105 as a city?
So yes, so based on this, the purpose behind us even, actually, it all came out of an accident of town monuments. Who was responsible for them, and how this all worked, and the Veterans Council, and how they were doing. There was just a lot of issues going on within the veterans organizations. Somehow or another, all of a sudden I typed in something, I Googled it, found this bylaw, or found this Mass General law, and just started calling up other towns, other cities, they have them.
And they have similar bylaws. Even towns, I will tell you, even towns have adopted the exact same type, whereby in many cases, the appointment, if you don't have a town manager, say a town administrator, and I'm speaking specifically in Webster, it was not an appointed committee by the town administrator, but rather the Board of Selectmen. But even though it was a town, it was not an elected board. It was just like this bylaw, made up the same way, and they were appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So this is, the
Accepted by the
bylaw
state.
is kind of a variation of the state law, but it's not, exactly the state.
Okay, are you looking at,
Yes.
Okay, this is the state law, not a variation of the
It
state
is,
law.
but
What
the
the
bylaw
What
is a
they're allowed.
variation.
I don't mean
of
a
it.
variation of the state, I mean, the allowance by the state. The state is allowing towns to adopt.
To create a board of trustees. There's no local option for this law.
Right.
It just states that in towns which accept gifts or bequests
Right.
for the money. We established, in Webster, we established the same type of trustees group because we built a brand new memorial in front of town hall. And that's when we established the trustees.
Right.
This is
We were
how-
having a whole.
This is a kind of the same issue. I mean,
Okay.
it was the same.
Yeah.
But Dave, the
Yeah.
reason why I brought up chapter 790 was for two purposes. And that was brought up in what, 74 or 73? What's the same date on top?
This is 70, if I'm not mistaken, this is the old one.
No, on it, of the special act, where your thumb is. This is
75, 75.
Okay. Shortly after this form of government was adopted by the people of this town, there were a couple members of town that said, we are a city, we're not a town. Because, and the person was Lucian Duff, was probably the most vocal. And if you looked at our original charter, he was right. Now, because there was a hole in the original existing charter. Now, under chapter 790, that special act of the legislature did two things for Southbridge. First, it says you are a town. So that killed the city discussion. Now, at the time that this charter, because I think we brought it up at the last meeting, that the original charter was adopted, we were the third charter that was formed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we were basically, we were treading on new ground. So where the problem came in, if looking, and I know you do a lot of personal research for Southbridge and the town government of Southbridge based on state law. And I know you're gonna run across a lot of language that says in a state law, for a city, this is what the law means and how you establish it and proceed with it. In a town, here it is, here's your procedure. They are separate. So what it did in the next paragraph of 790, for the purpose of that interpretation of state law, it bestowed the powers of the selectmen to the town manager and the powers of the town meeting to the elected town council for the purpose of interpretation of state law, so that we in Southbridge could interpret it properly on what applies to Southbridge. Now, I said at our last meeting, in the early 2000s, there wasn't a good feeling in this town about our town manager. So there was a lot of anti-town manager feeling. So I hope that they didn't look at that paragraph and say, oh, that's where the town manager gets a lot of his support in state law. Let's get it out of there. Well, what it did was put us back in limbo on trying to interpret this stuff.
Well,
Because there's a lot of laws that don't even mention a town manager or a town council.
right, and so this specific one says mayor. So, and then it talks, so we fit it most closely to what our town,
What's the
or what we would assume it to be, not is always correct, it's just, it matched us a little bit better with that area than it did with the other paragraph, the secondary paragraph. So when we did that, that was what it was. They had no budget, they have nothing right now, to be honest with you. It's brand new for 2 years, and we're still trying to figure out how this process kind of works with the trustees. That includes with the historical commission, who's responsible for what, who, the Veterans Council, because you got a lot of competing forces at this point in time. So we just put it to what we felt was fit our town needs and based on our town. So,
Okay,
yes.
so I was reading your, this is very
Oh,
interesting
yes.
reading. The page that nobody can read.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can send, you know what, I can send it to you via
That the
email. It's a
town
lot easier.
accountant be and hereby is authorizes a transfer of the sum of $18,500 from the surplus cash account by something to the World War Memorial Park account, and the sum of $12,409.25 from the World War Memorial Fund to the World War Memorial Park account, the last sum being the sum returned to the town at the stress tax collected, arrears tax collected to meet the provisions of the soldier's bonus, including the accrued interest to date, as per vote taken under Article 12 of the annual town meeting held March 2nd, 1925, providing said transfers are approved by the Director of Accounts for
Now Denise, what are you
The
reading?
co-
What
or
are you
the-
reading
That's
from?
this.
Commonwealth.
That one.
Which one?
It's the one you can't
Second.
see.
And I can send it to you. via
Yeah, it's from the book.
Right here.
It's from a very
It's
old
page
book. though.
90.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not this one.
It's pretty cool. Then it talks about
No,
roads and
that's this
stuff.
one.
But if you go down a little bit further, it
Good luck.
points the individuals to the memorial.
Somewhere on
there.
Or memorial committee
For-
I have a hard time.
under Article 33. So,
Article 33.
Yeah.
So, so my question, I was gonna ask you this though. So this was a town account, it seems like, so therefore, I guess since it said trust, I was a little concerned that maybe there was you said you had looked in the town, you talked to finance, but if it was some sort of trust, then did it have a state component as an outside trust, say? But it doesn't appear, it appears that this money maybe was the money that seeded this quote
this is
trust?
what it was. You had the bonus money that the county had left over that provided the town the extra
Right,
to purchase the property across the street. And so with that being said, that was in 1925. And then it went to 1938. I'm sure they had discussions between that period of time, setting everything up. And then in 1938, I believe they purchased the property. The town purchased that piece of property with the remaining funds that they had. And that's how they built that monument that's there.
And so what paid for the actual monument if they purchased the money? I mean, I guess, you know where I was getting, it's like, if it's a trust account, then there would be some sort of tax, there would be a paper trail of money, but if it's a town account paying for it, it's a town
The only
account.
thing
There
I-
isn't one, there isn't one.
the
Town
only-
trust account.
It's right here on
Right,
the
a town trust account. But they wouldn't have the taxes with it.
No tax.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Right,
I
they
did
don't have taxes.
provide you an annual 3 pages. It's the annual kind of report from 1938, but it's made in February of 1939. Kind of
Yeah.
tells about what the
Yeah.
committee did. Funds were raised. Remember at that time, they didn't even have a VFW. They had the American Legion. The American Legion was downstairs, and this is how they raised all their funds.
But it's the town
Yes,
for the purpose of the park.
correct.
So therefore, there is no outside taxable, auditable account error, right? You know what I'm saying? Pam, you know what I mean, like finance-wise?
That was something that we were looking into because I did a little goose chase. Because some people were telling me that it belonged to the Historical Society.
Right.
Claire Burt's, everything. I made phone calls as far as I could to find out if there was any extra money that we can utilize or request, like from Claire Burt's or somebody like that, because that's what I kept hearing.
There's no trail from.
There's no real
from the-
trail.
So
from
it
the
says
town.
on that page 90, it said that monument was $10,000. They contracted out Rock of Ages Corporation of Barry, Vermont for the granite monument, and then it had to be completed by August in that same year of 1938. So I think, I'm on the chapter page 90 here, so.
Does
but
it say
it
they
don't-
raised more money or who gave them more money, allocated money from
It
anywhere? Just
Doesn't,
curious where the.
it doesn't show, I'm still trying to read it, I'm having a hard time because I'm
It-
almost
look,
starting to
it's
go
a
The bottom
blind.
line is, the town does not have possession of any trust
Right.
or any monies, they don't appropriate any monies to your committee that has been established and has been in existence for a few years now.
Right, not as of yet, yeah.
Okay, and,
But who's in control of the trust?
there is no.
There is no
trust.
trust. It's the
I thought
name.
there was one that was created.
But
Back.
there's probably zero. I mean, if the treasurer doesn't have, the treasurer would have custody of the trust, if it was a town trust. If it was a private trust, that's not our.
So that
Right.
page, the one that you can barely read, is from March 1438. On the back page under Article 33, I'm gonna send you the attachment, that way it's a lot easier to read. But it does state in there the appointment of the committee. Doesn't talk, I don't think it talks about anywhere about trust. It talks about appointing individuals to the committee. And a lot of names you already know that are probably in that you know from the town, so.
Right, and that they're trustees, as trustees of memorials, not trustees of some
Correct.
financial account.
Correct,
Correct.
They're the, and you know what I'm saying, they're entrusted to the memorials,
correct.
not funds per se, unless you raised them and fixed it or something, yeah.
Then that's something that we will
Okay,
be
well, you've
working
answered,
on.
you know, that's where all my, those are the,
But like I said, even if it stays in there because it was voted on by the town,
right,
you know, to have this
to be a part.
trustee or have this committee, maybe that can't be moved without, maybe a town council vote, I don't know. It's just like the monument can't be moved without the state's approval.
Right,
it's a
because
memorial
that
park.
part belongs to the community, which entrusted that, these extra monies.
Correct. Now, you can go through the state, town council will have to vote to move it, because this is part of the whole initiative of what we were looking at doing. But we can go to the state too with the town councils, if they said yes, then we go to the state, asking them for yes, because it's happened in the past. They repurpose some of these memorial parks for other reasons. Dresser Park, the housing, that's right behind Dresser Memorial Park was utilized. So we looked at that, but then we said, okay, there's other reasons why we decided, you know what, maybe it's best to leave that park there, rededicate it to the town, because who would have known that in 1930, this was the first public park in the town of Southbridge, and it was a memorial park. There's no signage, no nothing. So we're gonna rededicate that park. But that being said, when I took a look at what your charter was going through, well, looking at the charter, I just saw this committee, and is it relevant to this date? Officially, do we have to do something as a town to remove it, or does it stay there, or can we recommend it be removed and?
I might be the only one thinking like this. But if this is exactly the law, because in some of the research I've done, this is exactly how it appears when you print it out, of the actual law. Now, when you start and you look at the bottom for in towns, it's specific. The state law is specific of the creation of the Board of Trustees. And it calls out for an elected board. And on the second page, up on top, it also gets specific of what the members shall consist of. Now, if that's actually the case, then 432, in talking about, or would have no regulation over the Board of Trustees for soldiers' memorials, that kind of stuff. On the other stuff, it would still apply, but let's say on the World War I memorial trustees, that portion of charter was created in error.
Well, let me throw something else at you. There was no World War II when this was created. It should be World War. Committee. So, I catch myself always saying World War I because it's natural for me, but back then,
Now,
supposed to be the war
and
to
when
end all
this was
wars.
created, if this is original, 432 to the original charter, the only thing that didn't exist for the United States at the point, I think, was the Vietnam War. Everything else prior, Korea.
now mind you, there may have been a committee still for that war memorial at the time, and they changed to World War I because two has already happened, and you've got Korea comes through fast after that, but that's the only, but I can't. If you look at the town meeting minutes from back then, they were actually probably more efficient than we are sometimes.
Okay, there's section 105 of chapter 41. It says Board of Trustees for soldiers' memorials, S. Powers, duties, membership, that kind of stuff. Now, so if state law is saying and demanding pretty much that it's elected, the Board of Trustees is elected. And 432 basically covers appointments by the town manager and confirmed by council. Then 432, in respect to World War I Memorial Trustees, was created not in compliance with state law.
Well, I don't know when this Mass General Law was created. Is it on there?
Well,
I mean, that may not have been
you
around.
know, it's like, even let's say with us tonight, that this charter review committee is making recommendations on improvement of the charter. Next step is it's gonna go to council to submit it to the voters, and the voters will have final say. Now, there might be a lot of things that we're changing in the charter that's completely gonna flip a provision of our bylaws on its head. So, after the charter is, let's say, adopted or accepted, the charter says wait a year, and the chairman calls a bylaw review committee. The purpose of that bylaw review committee is to do the research on things that were added to the charter that now the bylaws of the town are no longer in conformance.
Right, so you'd have to go
So-
through the process.
Because bylaws.
That's a process that they gotta go through.
Charter all the time that you did review.
You know, basically to clean
Makes
up,
sense.
let's say, the language of the
Absolutely.
bylaws.
And if it finds this not to be in compliance with the review, or whatever you guys decide you wanna move forward, I just wanted to bring it to your attention to say, do we need this anymore? And if we, your choice, and I just wanted to bring you some history on it. I do have information from 1925, when the bonus money was given and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't think it was.
Do you still have my copy of the old charter? That's right there, I think. Okay. I want to look in here to see if the language was the same.
So I was looking to find it. I'm having a hard time with it.
No, thank you, especially here. Well,
I gotta say this.
I think
never mind, I'm gonna reverse it.
I'll
I think
give
we should
you,
just take this.
I'll give
Right,
you a
yeah,
credit.
I don't
Right,
think
take that out of there,
that's.
and then, like you
Well, you
said,
know,
It's just a catch-all.
It's-
Andrew,
I don't see a problem putting it in.
that
directly, you know,
Either way,
here's
about
the bylaw, so
about
the
the
appointment
hybrid
is, this is how
question.
it's established, it's in the bylaws.
That we're a town,
What does the
we're not a
bylaw
city.
say about it versus what?
There's no halfway discussion about it, either one or the other.
And how it's
And
established,
as a
created,
town,
and
we
maintained.
cannot
You don't need it in the town
adopt
charter.
No.
provisions
There's some things that are.
that is
Right, I didn't know if you
specifically
need one to put in
dedicated
there.
for cities. We
I
don't
was
have
looking
that
from
option.
from a.
So that's why, because you mentioned that before in the past also. And, you know, I basically disagree with that statement
I'm gonna
because
tell you this.
it's not allowed,
I
I can't
can't
do
find
that.
it in all the.
In the trust, maybe,
What's that?
in the name of one of your
Oh,
veterans organizations, somewhere in another bank.
That's a very good point. That's a good point you bring up. The American, so Francine from the
Just
assessment
mine.
office helped
Yours.
me tremendous.
I drew all of
Or
them.
just by chance we talked about it. She gave me a.
Like, I tried to be as
link a
thorough as I
source.
can.
I took a look at the source. The source says, take a look at the brooch, the pamphlet from the dedication.
And I mean,
Take a
this
look
also
at
depends too, with
the
whether or
meeting
not,
minutes. And then also take a look
if
at.
there's
the
an
American
amendment to
Legion's
a
minutes.
particular,
American Legion's
well, no,
minutes
it's
are up in flames.
but thinking out loud.
Gone. But around to a veteran, we need the actual pamphlet from there. And it taught me a lot about that monument as well, more so than these did. So if it were in there, anything, it were under the American Legion minutes,
Literally
talking like
physical
Daniels,
corrections
gone.
on the minutes.
So I don't know what else at that point in time.
I like
can
history.
find any more history on it. It's not that it's not there, it's just I can't find it at this point in time. So,
Well, I think it's something that we can certainly, not now,
right, I
since
just,
it's very late. I think we can.
Okay,
circle
can I
around
ask-
as they ever get.
Can I ask the committee something?
Yeah.
Is there, would anybody be opposed to at our next meeting, which would be approximately, we're gonna get to that in a minute on establishing our next meeting?
20th.
If you would be
20th.
willing to come back
Absolutely.
at our next meeting?
Yeah, are we
But
keeping
is
it
that-
back?
It'll give
Are we
us a
keeping it
little
on Tuesday or are
Are
we
we
changing it
keeping
back
it
to
on
Wednesday?
Tuesdays or Wednesdays? Going back
Can
to
we keep
Wednesday?
Wednesday. Oh,
Well,
what's your wish?
I know it was these, what do you think?
As long as it's not a Monday or a Thursday.
what
Tuesday or
about
Wednesday
you?
is okay with me.
Did you care anymore? Because you said it didn't matter at one point.
Because at this point, I don't even know where I'm at on a day ending and why.
Right. We went to Wednesdays for, mostly for age.
Because I was off on Wednesdays and then it's been an adventure
It
already.
would be the 20th.
Yeah.
But don't you forget, young lady, we changed to Tuesday because, to accommodate your schedule.
Just today, though.
Just today, but
That's right.
then she said I was like
No.
Tuesdays.
I'd rather
So
have
that's-
Tuesdays too.
You'd rather have
What-
Tuesdays?
You know, whatever
You
works
do
for
it Tuesdays
everybody.
until you can't do Tuesdays, and then you tell us.
I'm
Move back to
I'm
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's
flexible.
fine, because I had to open 2 stores today and close 2 stores today. And then I got stuck in traffic, so it was just
We didn't miss much.
extenuating
I would
circumstances.
not be able, well, I don't know. I probably will be able to do the.
When's our next meeting date if we do a Wednesday?
21st.
On the 21st.
Okay, so if we do a Tuesday, it would be the 20th.
Yes.
Okay, are there issues the 20th or 21st of next month?
I mean,
Next.
I'm getting my second shot on the 21st.
No, it would be
so
this one.
I'm
Her arm's
probably
gonna hurt.
fine. My second shot.
Her arm's gonna hurt.
So
My shot,
let's do
my
the
shot.
20th.
Yes, sure.
On the
So let's do
21st.
April 20th.
On the, yeah, you sound like Roland. You came up when I was getting my shot and said, give it to her down here. 20th is better for me.
20th.
So I don't think I can't make it out of the council meeting.
Oh, you're doing
at
it.
VFW, but you guys do, I can send you anything, if you have questions, I can email it to you.
What time is your meeting at?
I got Veterans Council meeting at 6 and VFW meeting at 7.
On the 20th?
So no.
Yeah, on the 20th, so it's my whole night shot.
But
Okay.
we're not, I mean.
Is there an
we're-
issue? The 21st you're having your shot?
Yeah.
So she's.
I'll be fine.
I will forward you
I was fine.
what I do.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine. We can do the 21st. I'll be fine.
The 21st?
The 21st good with everybody?
Sure.
I'm having it at 7:15 in the morning.
Okay, and the 21st,
I know it.
You're-
My wife gets a shot.
you're good to go on the
I just
21st?
never told you.
Okay, we're gonna meet up here
Can you do
at,
the
no,
21st?
Town Hall.
Denise can't do
Probably.
the
I
21st.
probably
Huh?
can.
Denise might not be able to do the 21st.
I'll see.
What were you going to
Never
take?
told you though.
I have told you in the past that you should have a job before you enjoy a vacation.
I'm not going.
Because you take, you know, like 7, 8 vacations. a
I
year.
came a week and a half after I had knee replacement.
She was here and that
Okay.
is motivation and
Don't-
That's
dedication.
right. That's
Don't
commitment.
hold back, 'cause
Crutches
I know
and
I
all.
can't make it. You guys do whatever you, I just, I
It's
can.
like-
Okay,
That's another day.
how's your schedule on the 21st?
It's fine, it's all.
Okay, so how about, we meet the 21st, 6:30 at Town Hall in the, what's that, the parent room?
Depends on how many let in there.
The what?
Depends how many they
Let
let
me
in.
think what's going on. Wait.
Depends how many they let in there.
No, you can, as a committee, you have to have space to.
Would you
Let
get
me just
budget?
think. Budget meetings are the 23rd, 27th, the school committee meeting.
Why don't you just let us
All
know?
right,
Around
just, you should be able to,
No,
right?
my wife's giving Johnson and Johnson.
Okay, so it'll be at Town Hall in the Judge Parent.
She can give them nuts in town.
Who would be back in town?
Motion to adjourn?
So I make a motion to adjourn. the
Motion to
meeting.
adjourn, okay?
Second.
Unanimous of all.